Hey all, and welcome back. So I want to do this update video just to talk a little bit about what Colossus Phase 3 is. That's what we're doing right now. What 1 and 2 was, so I can explain that a little bit. And also, like, specifically what I've been working on, and also what type of combat sports I've been getting involved with to further develop the Colossus form, and also get ready to do, at least as much as realistically I can, sparring with giant swords against other people that just want to go. Okay, so first thing is I've been talking a lot of hints and the shorts, some of the videos, just kind of feed you guys little bits of information, but it's taking a long time for some of the stuff to get made, so I wanted to go ahead and show it to you. So Colossus Phase 3, as I think some of you know, at least the ones that are dedicated and actually paying attention to what's going on the channel, is basically training to wear armor while also fighting with a giant steel sword. Now, the giant sword weighs about as much as most historically accurate armor suits weigh. So when you see me swinging around, just envision me picking up an armor suit going clang with somebody, because the clang is real, right? But it's also to do it effectively and build the body up. Phase 1, if you all remember, or if you were with me back then, was basically showing that giant swords could be swung around, they could be used, and also work towards Guinness Book of World Records. However, that got a little overshadowed because there was a huge outcry and demand for like spar, which is like, okay. Short little fact, I've been to some HEMA gyms. They don't just let you walk in and start sparring people. You're not like Fiore back in the day, be like, I challenge you. But we'll get there, don't worry. And to get there and get there properly and appropriately, I wasn't going to show up with like motocross armor, because motocross armor was just protect me, and it was nice and cool, and honestly it was very effective for what I wanted to do, which was protect me from the blade, not hinder my body, and also reduce the chance of injury from the blade touching my skin. So now we're working towards actually wearing full suit of armor. Now, I didn't want to go for a historically accurate one or one of those. I wanted to go for a armor suit that I could use in a sport, specifically in Buhurt, because I feel like Buhurt shows it really resembles more closely what I think would be an effective fighting style with giant swords. Very aggressive, very in your face, lots of punching, kicking, wrestling, grappling, chucking down. When I went to the HEMA gyms, there wasn't really a lot of grappling. Some did, but they were like kind of separate. Most of the time, they were just practicing different movements with rapiers, long swords. And I just felt like, although that would be good, and like if you want to, that's great. But for me, I was like, I felt Buhurt was a more aggressive sport that really resembles closely what I envisioned with the Colossus form and fighting with giant swords. Because again, you're not going to be timid fighting with a giant sword. You're going to be very aggressive. And then also I picked Muay Thai, because Muay Thai is a lot of punching, kicking, elbow strikes, knee strikes. You're always staying on your feet. I know a lot of people really like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it has its place, but I don't really see the best form is like getting down there and kind of scooting around and like just rolling around on the ground. For the Colossus forms, especially fighting with giant swords, whatnot, you're fighting like battlefield scenarios, or you gotta stay on your feet. You can't really roll around with giant swords very effectively if you're on the ground. So sure, you could hug somebody with a giant sword, but yeah. So I felt like Buhurt, more aggressive sport. So I'm in a group, in a club, got the number. I'll share videos way down the road, because come September, I'm going to be doing some fights with them. Hopefully my armor suit's ready. And I'm also going to be doing some cool Scottish games as well, which is going to be really cool. But then also Muay Thai, I've been doing a lot of posts lately where I say, hey, doing Muay Thai, Muay Thai, Muay Thai. It's been a lot of like group sessions, but also like group sparring as well. Not so much individualized. I might do that down the road, but I gotta price myself effectively. And then yeah, eventually we'll get to the padded giant sword version that we can go whack, and after we test it, of course, to make sure it actually works. But I just want to give you guys an update what's specifically going on with that, and I wanted to show you too what the armor suit is that I am working on, or that I'm having built for me. Now, as I mentioned, this is armor meant for Buhurt, so it's not 100% historically accurate, but I did go for it as much as realistically possible for me and for the Buhurt sport. Buhurt armor is very heavy. Okay, it's much heavier than medieval or historically accurate armor. And then I created mine, or specific parts that I felt would be most effective to like help display tons of like display the effective Colossus form, or also properly protect me while I'm taking on opponents, multiple opponents, or I'm working with a group against another group, so on and so forth. So that's why I picked my particular style. And again, because I felt Buhurt was most effective and aggressive, I had to meet their standards, their requirements. And honestly, I feel like their standards requirements are pretty high, except for the wolf rib. Wolf ribs are very popular. If you don't know what that is, basically it's like a grill face. It really helps you breathe, but there's lots of holes for things to go through. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to be sparring with people and testing it out, I want an armor suit that's going to properly protect me against majority of weapons, which means I will have to have gap coverage as well down the road, which will make a thing weigh even more. And the way I look at it is, since Buer armor is usually way heavier than historical armor generally, like, I think maximum gets about 60 pounds, but Buer armor, the bare minimum usually starts at like 70 pounds. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can do Colossus 4 movements in this, which I do believe I can, I once again prove a point that this is practical. This is something that can be done, and it's effective. And down the road too, when we talk about the medieval, if it were used in medieval times, which again, from the very beginning, I said this was never about showing like, oh, this should have been used in medieval times, but that seems to be like a lot of demand, a lot of outcry. So I'm like, okay, fine, we'll make whole entire episodes out of it. We'll make entire series out of it. I personally believe if it was to be used, it'd be more like an assault tank, a breakthrough tank type role. And then possibly, again, an aerial denial weapon as well, because you can just kind of stand there and just cause havoc. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes down the road, how far I can realistically test it. I mean, if you watch historical channels like Tequem's a lot of sparring fighting. And again, he stays on his feet. And it ends on the ground sometimes, like when they're stabbing each other to death, but he does a lot of sparring and grappling that more closely resembles Buer than actual like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Or like, again, like Muay Thai, punching, striking. There's a lot of punching, striking. And Buer, there's things that are outlawed, like stabbing and whatnot, or poking, but that might change down the road, so we'll see. But Buer also has sword moves as well for dueling. So there's a lot of things going on. But for me in particular, going back to the armor, I wanted to pick something that, again, like will give the maximum effect. And I felt like the Hound Skull was good because there's no really flat surfaces in there. There's no huge gaps. It's very cone shaped. And then of course it has like the top bassinet part as well. As you can see, the gorget with floating leather pieces to help the plates move around, protect my neck. And yeah, if someone's going to or someone's going to wield a giant sword in any type of combat scenario, they're going to be wearing plate armor. And they're going to be training to fight with this giant sword with plate armor. And as we've seen with our videos, it doesn't matter if you are wearing plate armor. If you hit with a giant sword, you are in trouble. So I really think this is going to help the channel out a bunch, help make it more valid, and also give me something to go wear when I go out and finally duel people. All right, here are the shoulders. Hope you guys really like these. They're really super cool. They're like great shoulders or great pauldrons. They're freaking huge, and they move quite well because they have to, because they're designed for Buer. And they're being made by somebody who does Buer in Europe. So a lot of excitement there. And then here, of course, are the greaves as well. That's one's covered my calves. I'm kind of curious about the joints that are on them. Pretty interesting. And then the boots. I got like super fancy boots. I was even joking with Jenny for a while. I was like, oh, I got my fancy boots. And I wanted the boots that would cover the entire leg and also the ankle as well, and then the back of the heel, because again, it's going to be very violent. It's a very violent sport. People get injured a lot. I've already been in a couple practices with my team, and first day, someone tried to blow my freaking knee out, which I didn't really appreciate, but it healed. I got it all healed up and strengthened it, and I've been practicing a lot to build up my endurance to extreme levels, which I need anyways for giant swords. So it's good stuff. And honestly, I think I'm in the right group. Could you do HEMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Yeah, but again, I think Muay Thai and Buer would definitely better prepare you for wielding giant swords. Now, HEMA would be a bonus because then you have more experience dealing directly with HEMA people. But if you have limited time and you want to train to wield giant swords in a combat scenario, or like at least a combat sports scenario, I think Muay Thai and Buer is the best way to go. And they have a much more aggressive mindset, are more willing to take damage and get abused while fighting. So it seems to be the right place to go. And again, my team, I don't think they don't even know about my channel. I prefer to keep it that way because I like them to get to know me rather than like this crazy freaking thing going on. But anyways, so let me know what you guys think. Headed the right directions. Hopefully I covered everything. Let me double check real quick before I dip out in this video. Yeah, and like I said, this is why I chose these sports. Oh, phase 1, phase 2. So phase 1 was all about showing that giant swords could be wielded what can be done with them and if it's actually possible. And then when I finally got really just getting good at it, I was like, no, this is practical, something that could actually be done. It'll take time to learn all the techniques and proper training. And that's what phase 2 was. Phase 2 was learning how to move with giant swords, have the body move with giant swords, movements while moving with giant swords, also developing different types of exercises, techniques, corrective exercises, and supplementary exercises to make yourself better and stronger wielding giant swords, and also help really toughen up the body and prepare it. Which is why we took such a long time getting to the armor phase, because you don't want to throw in tons of armor and try to lift a giant sword. You're just going to blow your back out immediately, and that's not going to work. And honestly, historically, knights, men-at-arms, actual fighters, they trained for years, if not their entire life. So the fact that it does take a while to build up the strength for giant swords, I don't think it's a problem. I don't think that shows that's impractical at all. In fact, I think it shows that, it takes a really good warrior, a really great athlete in order to be able to do this, and it makes it even more of a threat and a really good effective weapon. But we'll see in time. Like I said, again, I don't know for sure. We haven't got to that point yet, but we are one step closer with all the armor. All right, Outlaws. We'll see you next time.